What's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. I'm your host, Max Torres with ScoopDuck on 3, coming to you live on a Sunday morning, September 29th, 2024. Here to talk to you about Oregon's 34-13 win over the UCLA Bruins on the road in Pasadena to open Big Ten play. Got my guy Justin Hopkins, ScoopDuck owner and publisher, on with me today. And Justin, how we doing? Good morning.
Good, clearing out the cobwebs from a late night. I know it was a much later night for you because you were there and at the game and had to get home after. I pretty much saw the last few seconds tick off, and my eyes were shut right after that. No, it was a late night, but Ducks got the dub. At the end of the day, they're 4-0.
At the end of the day, you're 4-0, and that's what matters. I think there's a lot that we can glean from this game on both sides of the ball. Getting a couple of comments here in the live chat. Our guy Micah Time is here. He says, "Go Ducks." What's going on, Micah? Thanks for being here. Ruben, the man, says, "Good morning. A good win. Second half was nerve-wracking. It's a win. I know. Go Ducks."
I don't know about you, but I woke up hungry this morning. I could slay some tortillas right now, Ruben, just so you know. Like, I could probably take like 4 of them and just rub butter all over them and just
That sounds pretty good. Or like a breakfast burrito. I had a breakfast burrito yesterday, and that was very solid.
We need a ranchito bar and grill in Medford, so hopefully he's gonna expand.
maybe that's in the plans down the line. But let's get into this one, Justin. Like you said, I was at that game. Really, really fun environment. Not like raucous by any means, but I got to go down on the field level, which was really fun to see everybody and get some good video. So that's all over on my Twitter account. If you guys haven't already seen it, just seeing the players that up close is great, especially since this was the first time I got to see them in person today. So I think for me, not that I want to be, I think we can start on a positive, but I think the biggest thing for me, Justin, that I keep thinking about coming away from this game is that you had a really solid, a dominant first half offensively, and then it just felt like you were kind of sputtering for a majority of the second half. It really felt like this was a game that they could have put away much sooner. I guess it was never in doubt, so I shouldn't maybe say that, but you were up 20, I think it was 25-3, 28-3 at one point, and it felt like, all right, let's see another touchdown up on the board here, and then let's get Dante Moore in. But the Ducks just kind of a really weird second half offensively. So kind of a tale of two halves offensively for me, kind of like we saw from the Oregon State game on the defensive side of the ball. But that's kind of what's on my mind as we kind of start diving into this one.
Yeah, that's the game, right? Oregon comes out. Obviously, they give up. UCLA sustains a nice long opening drive, gets a field goal. Defense buckles down in the red zone, and then basically never looks back until the pick six to end the first half, which, wasn't the best throw, but let's be real, Tez Johnson slipped down, obviously opening the window for Addison there to grab that and take it back. So fortunate play. I think right there, that play alone is what changed the second half for the staff. And what I mean by that, my takeaway, and this isn't based on sources, I haven't asked, I'm just looking at it this way. I think Oregon got super conservative in the second half. They were conservative on offense, running the ball, really didn't take any chances. Everything was right in front of them. It felt like they just kind of wanted to grind out the clock and get out of there with the win, whether it was 34-13 or 34-20 or 34-3, whatever. They just want to get out of there with the win. So to me, I'm kind of like, I wasn't super impressed with the second half. I would have liked to see the run game maybe be a little bit more effective. And maybe that was a byproduct of that. Maybe they were really trying to work on the run game and make it and get it better. And that's the situation you do it in. So, the second half wasn't great, but the game was never in doubt, right? Like it never got close enough where you were like, oh crap, Oregon better, put the gas back down on the pedal or else they're going to lose this game. They were in control all the way. And again, I think the name of the game was get out of there with the win and as few injuries as possible and be ready for the short week.
And you mentioned it there, Justin. Certainly one of the more notable developments from last night's game was the injury to Terrence Ferguson. I believe he exited late in the first half there after taking a pretty brutal hit from safety Brian Addison, who transferred from Oregon to UCLA this offseason. And then we saw a little bit of fire from Dylan Gabriel getting in Addison's face after that. And that was kind of cool to see. And I think Tez might have even had a little bit to say about it too. So that was just a really weird play. I think that the other dynamic from it too was just I think that Addison was like more or less flexing over him after, when he definitely looked like he was in a bad way and didn't help him up. Not necessarily saying I expected to see that, but especially for guys who were former teammates, that definitely just left me with a weird taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I thought the hit was a little dirty. It wasn't completely malicious. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel, I think, agreed with me, on the hit, because if you go back and look at it, he definitely kind of throws his body at him. There's obviously contact to the head. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, that changed the game. Like, it is what it is. It's football. At the end of the day, it sucks. Injuries happen. Looks like we'd probably be okay. I mean, even if T Ferg doesn't play this week, which I think he'll be fine. I think he'll play. Even if he didn't play, Oregon should be fine without him. And again, if that's the only injury that we currently know of from the game, if you're Daniel Lanning, you say, okay, let's get him healthy. But otherwise, we did pretty good on that front. So, yeah, I noticed on the broadcast. I mean, obviously, it was pretty apparent on the broadcast. These two teams were jawing back and forth all game long. It was really surprising to me because I've never seen this as really like any kind of rivalry at all. I mean, the most rivalry it had was when Chip Kelly was there, and you're like, okay, Oregon's old head coach is there, and maybe there's a little something to it. But I don't know. There was a lot of jawing on the field yesterday to me, and I felt like I kind of felt like UCLA was really undisciplined. Oregon made their own mistakes. Obviously not holding on to the football like they should. Some false starts, some things there that they still need to clean up, but I felt like, UCLA made some really just undisciplined mistakes, and it kind of reflects the leadership, I think, possibly there. Who knows?
Just to wrap up here a little bit on the Ferguson injury, the stump with a question here on the live stream: is Ferguson okay? In the press conference after the game, Lanning was asked about Ferguson, and he said, quote, "I think Terrence is going to be good, just precautionary from our standpoint, but he's doing well." Of course, saw Ferguson in street clothes walking on the field after the game, exiting with the team up the tunnel. So we'll have to see if he's going to be good to go next week. I think that I think you feel okay getting by Michigan State without Ferguson, especially if it means he's going to be good for Ohio State. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I think if you're without Terrence Ferguson in the Ohio State game, Justin, I think we're having a little bit of a different conversation here. But I think, at least from what Lanning's saying, it looks like he should be okay. But I don't know. It feels like we'll have to get a more in-depth update, hopefully, when we talk to him tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd be shocked. I'd be absolutely shocked if Ferguson, missed Ohio State. I wouldn't be all that shocked if he missed Michigan State. And again, I think that would probably largely be precautionary more than anything, because, I mean, let's face it, Kenyon Sadiq, Herbert, Oregon should be able to move past Michigan State minus T Ferg. I think T Ferg's value in Ohio State, obviously he's a receiver, can catch the ball, can run. It becomes blocking on the line. I mean, Ohio State's going to come with a really good defensive line, and Oregon's going to need that added protection on the offensive line there, if you will. So, you definitely want him ready to go for Ohio State. And I could see a scenario where, Dan goes uber precautionary and holds him out of this game. Or he might be putting the cart way before the horse, right? We'll hear from Dan tomorrow on Monday about it. But that's the only injury that we really know of that we have to talk about. And at the end of the day, it's not an ACL. It's not something that's season ending. So, but in large part, you win the game and you get out of UCLA relatively healthy overall.
And the other thing too that kind of crossed my mind here, let's just operate off a hypothetical. If Ferguson is missing any game or any time, I guess at any time that he's missing a game with this injury after getting knocked out yesterday, I'm wondering who the third tight end is, because obviously you have Patrick Herbert and you have Kenyon Sadiq. And then you also have Roger Saliapaga, AJ Pugliano, but both of those guys are true freshmen. So even though you feel good about the initial three, I'd be curious where they go after that, because we really haven't seen anything from any of the younger guys to give us any certainty there.
I say you just take Devin Jackson and put him over there and let him run around. Guy's a freak, dude. I love watching that guy play football as a linebacker. And Bryce Betcher's, maybe you take him and shove him over there. He could probably do it. But no, I think if that becomes an issue, and what I do believe is that we will, if T. Ferg doesn't play or if he's not 100%, I think we'll see them do maybe a little bit less of the 12 personnel, which obviously requires 2 tight ends out there. For the sake of not having a ton of depth there. Maybe we don't see as much 12 personnel against Michigan State. If for whatever reason Ferguson doesn't play or he's not fully healthy, if they need a third guy, I think it's Saliapaga. I think he's probably the next man up, if you will, behind Sadiq and Herbert.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like we're battling a little bit of a connection, Justin. So we'll just try to remain patient and keep it rolling here. Hopefully it catches up for us. I wanted to talk a little bit more about Dillon Gabriel, since we've been talking a lot about the offense here to get things going. He finishes the day 31 of 41 for 278 yards and 3 touchdowns. Obviously had the interception, of course. That was just a bad decision, certainly one that he'd want to have back. Also pitched in on the run game a little bit, 23 yards on 3 carries. And I thought that was interesting to hear Lanning talk about just how he was happy with how he used his legs against the Bruins. But I think it was also good to see the explosive plays a little bit. You obviously had the long touchdown to Tez Johnson, also had a good long pass to Trayshawn Holden. So Dillon Gabriel seems like he's looking more comfortable, I think, each week. You saw him buy some time with his feet as well, throw on the run. So he seems like he's developing well and looking more comfortable. But I almost forgot what I was going to say there. Oh, yeah. I was surprised. 41 passes against UCLA. I think that was much like the Idaho game when he threw for 49 times. I think that was a little bit of a surprising statistic, because I didn't see as much from the run game as I was maybe expecting last night.
Well, and I'd have to look at a chart. I mean, it's pretty clear that Will Stein's offense is going to feature a quarterback that's going to throw the ball a lot. Now, that said, if I looked at a breakdown, I would wager that 75 to 80% of the throws are less than 10 yards downfield, right? So essentially screens or slants or just the shorter yardage, high percentage type of throws. So I'm sure his average depth of throw is really low because of that. And I think that's, it's dink and dunk. That's why we threw a lot. And I think Oregon's just doing that right now. I think the deep game's there. I know we can see it. I know that they're not really sending guys deep all that often, but when they do, Gabriel's not afraid to uncork one. And we can see that he can hook up on those. So I think that's by and large Oregon being a little bit conservative and saving some of that for, a Michigan, Ohio State, Illinois, some of the bigger games that Oregon's going to see. So, I go back to the first half. It was a tale of 2 halves last night, right? Oregon in the first half, they're cooking. Like, everything's working. They could go long, they could go short. Gabriel could run. The run game was good. I mean, you were getting 6 and 7 yards consistently on first down. You were getting 3 and 4 yards when you needed, only a couple. So I think all of that was effective. I think in the second half, I think just fundamentally Oregon went very conservative. I think they did that on purpose. They didn't want to give UCLA any momentum with a turnover or another interception or anything right there that could have changed momentum in the game. And I know we'll get to it, but when your defense is playing like that, you can do that because you can run out this game and your defense is going to keep them out of the end zone for the most part. And they were able to do that.
I definitely want to get to the defense, but I had a couple more points on the offense I wanted to hit on, Justin, if you don't mind. I saw this comment here from CM, and he said they said everything looks hard for the run game. No easy explosive runs like last year. And that was something that also stuck out to me. Just keep in mind here, Oregon finished the game with 36 rushes for 153 yards and 1 touchdown. That came from Jordan James, averaging 4.2 yards per carry. The longest run of the day was 16 yards, Justin, which I thought was really interesting. And I don't know why. I just feel like I saw this comment and it just spoke to me. It felt like what I have been trying to kind of say. It looks like they're just not as dominant running the ball as they were last year. And maybe that's a case of, hey, we're still 4 games in, and then they're kind of trying to find their stride, and the offensive line is still gelling. I just think the more games I see and they don't look dominant running the ball, the harder it is for me to kind of lean into that. Okay, hey, it's early. They're still trying to do this. They're still trying to do that. We obviously still don't have Matthew Bedford in the starting lineup as he re-injured his injury. I think it was a leg injury of some sort during the bye week. But I don't know. It just feels strange to me that we're not seeing some of these explosive runs. Like you're doing enough, but I think when you look at the explosive runs category, that's what the great teams are doing. That's what the elite teams are doing. And I just don't think it's been there for the Ducks just yet.
I think it's twofold. I think there's 2 things here. First is this offensive line group is not as good as the group was last year. Let's call a spade, right? That was a pretty dominant, pretty elite offensive line group, and I'm talking all the way across the board. They were good. I think this year we've seen an offensive line group that obviously had some issues coming out of the gate and has consistently gotten better, and they're better and better each week, and that's good. I will say this, and we were just talking about it a minute ago, so I think it kind of lends, some merit to what I'm about to say. Oregon really has yet, maybe the most we saw was in about a half of Oregon State. Oregon really has yet to uncork anything long, right? They're not setting their receivers on long, deep routes. They're not sitting there running, throwing the ball over and over downfield. If you're not doing that, what's the defense going to do? They're going to creep up to the line of scrimmage, right? They're going to watch you dink and dunk. They're going to watch you run, and both of those elements allows all 11 of those guys to be within a 7-8 yard box. And you're seeing that a lot. UCLA was in single safety coverage a lot of the game last night. I think that both of those things work together. I think when Oregon decides to start pushing the ball downfield more, obviously those guys are going to have to back up. And when those guys back up, then you're going to look and count the numbers in the box and say, okay, now let's run the ball. Now, the offensive line is still going to have to create some holes. And I will say they're still not as good as that group last year. I think we will see more bigger runs, maybe not 80-yarders, 70-yarders, 60-yarders, but we will see more 10-yard runs, 15-yard runs, 18-yard runs on a little bit more consistent basis when Oregon does that. And I just think we are seeing one of the most conservative versions of Oregon so far this year. It 100% seems like a strategy that Dan Lanning would employ, and it could be a huge payoff for Oregon if that's in fact what they're doing, and they know that the rest of this is there. When you play those other teams like Ohio State or Michigan and they aren't expecting it and you need it, it could be an advantage. And again, it's a longer season. I think we're seeing Dan Lanning be more conservative. I think that's a big reason. Maybe we're going to talk about, maybe not. I think that's a big reason Austin Novosad went out there and not Dante Moore last night, right? You're hopefully going to preserve both of those guys on a redshirt year, right? And they can play 4 games, right? So now you're 1-1. Dante Moore's got one. Austin Novosad's got one. If you put Moore out there last night, obviously he's used up half of his, redshirt availability. So I think we're seeing, you got to look and you got to trust Lanning. I think we're seeing some chess, not checkers out there, and it's very subtle, but it's going to be important down the line.
I think that that's a good point, and honestly, not the way that I have been looking at it. I've been looking at it more through the lens, Justin, of this team had just sky-high expectations, all the talent in the world, so just why haven't we been seeing it week to week? But I think it does obviously make a lot of sense, too, when you look at Oregon's opponents. Boise State is clearly the best team that they've played so far this year, and they continue to make some noise behind Ashton Genty, of course, and then Ohio State coming to town in a couple weeks lends itself to maybe a more conservative approach. The last offensive note that I have to talk about here, Justin, because someone else put it in the live chat, and I've been asking myself all year, maybe we already answered it. Travis says here, Evan Stewart rarely targeted. Are we missing something? It is so mind-boggling to me how little he has been used this year. He got 4 targets yesterday, caught 3 of them for 9 yards with a long of 11 yards. Tez Johnson's clearly Dylan Gabriel's top target. And then Trayshawn Holden seems to be getting a bigger role each game that we see him play. But gosh, how do you not get this guy the ball more? I just don't understand it. Maybe he's not as open as you would expect, but I saw a lot of people in the game were mentioning, oh, hey, look, there goes Evan Stewart open again, and Gabriel's not connecting with him. So I think that's one of the biggest question marks of the offense this entire season so far.
Yeah, it's a valid question. I mean, we're all talking about it, right? And we'd love to have Dean Lanning come on and tell us exactly why Evan Stewart's not getting the ball. Maybe somebody will ask the question tomorrow. And to me, I mean, I'm just looking, and I think it might be okay. And I need to go back and look at the film more. I'm just kind of like guessing here, sort of guessing. How much of the effort does Evan Stewart put in beyond running routes to catch an open ball, right? And my point is he blocking? You know, is he down? Is he in the run game and out there kind of like throwing his body, you know, to block? Is he a team guy? Like that's the thing to me. And I don't mean he's like a bad teammate. That's not what I'm saying. But, you know, one of the things that we've always heard before is, you know, if you don't block, no rock, right? Talking about wide receivers. Is he doing those little things that obviously, you know, Tez Johnson's on special teams and we know that he's a team guy and doing all these other things. I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe they're saving a little bit of the Evan Stewart magic because we know it's there. You know, the dude can get open consistently. You know, so I don't know. I might be reading too much into it. I might be fueling something that's not there at all. But I would like to go back and look at some of the run plays and watch Stewart specifically and see what kind of effort he's giving when he knows he's not getting the football.
Sure. And I think that's definitely a valid point. I think the other wide receiver note is that Justice Lowe got a little bit of time out there yesterday. I think he caught a few balls. Looks like he caught both of his targets. So that's good. But we definitely want to switch it up here, Justin, and get a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. I think just more of the questions are on offense right now. So that's kind of where the conversation naturally kind of gravitated for me. But before we talk about the defense, we have to talk about Ranchito Grill in Springfield for the second time today. Not sure what your guys' dinner plans are tonight, but check out Ranchito Grill in Springfield, 1537 Mohawk Boulevard. Try out their homemade tortillas. They got great food, a great environment, and they will take care of you. Say what's up to my guy, Ruben, and let him know that Max Torres sent you. ScoopDuck's Max Torres and Justin Hopkins coming to you guys on a Sunday morning following a 34-13 win for number 8 Oregon over the UCLA Bruins on the road in the Rose Bowl. Do us a favor, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Maybe you take it a step further and you hit the notification bell so you never miss out when we go live or post a video. Diving into the defense now, Justin, this was a dominant performance from Dan Lanning and Tosh LaPoy's defense, and I think it really started up front. You got big games out of Jordan Birch, Derek Harmon. We knew that UCLA was going to be a very run-heavy team, and they were able to bottle the Bruins up for just 85 total yards on the ground, 2 yards a carry, and they got to Ethan Garbers 4 times, and that dude was taking hits all night long. So big games up front, I think, is really where this one started, but Bryce Betcher got an interception, as did Tysheem Johnson, as that secondary continues to stay active and pad those PBU numbers. What do you think from the defense, Justin?
Yeah, another elite performance. And I think some fans were unfairly critiquing the defense and the fact that, look, this is a defense that does run a little bit of bend but don't break. It's not a total bend but don't break system, right? But there are times where you could see they're happy to give up 6 or 7 yards on the ground versus giving any explosive plays. And I totally understand that part of the game. That front line rotation is absolutely elite. Derek Harmon is a problem. Like the guy just absolutely is exactly what you want in the middle of your defense. It's making Jordan Birch better. And we see when Jordan Birch wants to flip the switch on, that's an elite edge player. Like that's a guy that can get pretty much anywhere he wants. Certainly feels like there's times where Jordan Birch has the switch all the way on and other times where maybe he doesn't. And once he can kind of, figure out that consistency level, I think you're going to see, even more from him. But yeah, I mean, Tatum continues to fly around with his hair on fire and I love it. Mateo, again, there's another guy that when the switch is on, Mateo is a huge problem. I think the issue for him is just making sure that the switch is on all the time. And Bryce Betcher's honestly become one of my favorite players to watch on this football team. I absolutely love the dude, just love the way he plays and his passion. And then Nico Reed, UCLA is not dumb. They went after, we saw Nico Reed out there more than Dante Manning last night. And UCLA basically said, we're not throwing at Jabbar Muhammad. Like, we're not throwing. They threw it like one time.
Yeah, look what happened the one time they did.
Yeah, exactly, right? They did. And so people like, they're picking on Nico Reed. Well, no crap. Like, where else are you going to throw it? You're going to throw it at Jabbar? So, yeah, I mean, that's just going to be – and Nico did a great job. Like, I'm not critiquing him. He took a lot of passes his direction and did a very good job. And the safeties were there to help him. Yeah, I mean – UCLA had 13 points, right? It was 34-13, and 7 of those were from the offense, basically. So, I mean, I don't know what else you expect. Oregon got out of that game clean, and that defense continues to be. I mean, Bassa's obviously getting closer to 100%. We could see he showed up last night a little bit. Jacobs is in and out of the lineup, but it doesn't matter. Devin Jackson and Bryce Betcher are doing a tremendous job at linebacker. Just a really fun group to watch.
Oregon limited UCLA to 172 total yards of offense on Saturday night. And it's a game that I think still builds your confidence, even though we know UCLA is not good. They are not a good team. My God. But they do have some good players. I think Rico Flores was a bright spot for them. Quasi Gilmer is someone I covered a lot coming out of high school out of Sierra Canyon, and he had some great plays for them as well. But they got a long way to go. And I think one of the bright spots for Oregon, if we're talking about this defensive performance, has to be the play of the linebackers, Justin, because I was a little bit, I don't know if I'd say concerned, but I was just a little bit, I don't know. I feel like I wasn't being given the whole picture early in the season. And a big part of that was because Jeffrey Bassa was kind of banged up. We didn't see much of Justin Jacobs either. So when you see Devin Jackson and Bryce Betcher out there as much as they were, you kind of wonder, okay, are they playing that well, or are these guys maybe not where we thought they were going to be? But it seems pretty apparent so far that Oregon's got a legit 2 deep at linebacker. Bryce Betcher is everywhere. And then I also had to make sure to ask Dan Lanning about Devin Jackson after last night's game, after he had that, wasn't a PBU, but he was stride for stride with Maliki Matavau on that deep ball. And he just continues. It feels like every week, Justin, we have one of those plays where you're like, holy crap, who is that in coverage? That's 26, Devin Jackson again. And yeah. Lanning didn't mince any words about it. He flat out said that Devin Jackson is the most improved player since he's been at Oregon. He said, quote, Devin's probably the most improved player in my time here at Oregon. He's just continued to get better and better every single week, plays with a passion and energy. He worked extremely hard in practice, and it's starting to really show up for him in games. And the dude just keeps showing up. So I think, and then now that you have another good showing, maybe the first, I should say, good showing from Jeffrey Bassa, who I believe had a sack and a PBU, you're definitely getting more confident in that group.
Yeah, I mean, Devin Jackson's a guy that is obviously blessed with a lot of physical traits that most people don't have, especially at his size. And it's clear that he probably relied on those physical traits in high school, as many do. Just, hey, I'm faster than everybody, and I can make mistakes and make up for it with my speed. You get to the college level like this, and that's not exactly how it works. And I think Devin Jackson's now put in the time to, lessen those mistakes he probably was making that didn't cost him in high school. And you're seeing a really good looking linebacker. I mean, yeah, I'm like you. There's sometimes you look and you're like, 26, which safety is that? Which safety is that? And you're like, oh crap, that's Devin Jackson. He's a linebacker. Just elite speed. The guy has elite speed. He's doing a much better job taking, better angles to get at the quarterback and just, making a difference in the game. So, I honestly thought to start the year that at some point we were probably going to need to see like Kamar Matudi or Dylan Williams or Braden Platt or one of those freshmen come in and provide some depth. And obviously we have not had to do that at all, because Devin Jackson and Bryce Betcher are playing really good football at linebacker.
Something I'll add here about the linebackers, Justin, the two of the younger backers that I saw on the field for pregame warmups were Braden Platt, and then also he's not in the same class, but Jerry Mixon. So I didn't see Kamar Matudi out there. I don't think he made the trip. I think, you have to manage the numbers there when it comes to that. Same goes for Dylan Williams. So that tells you a little bit about, I think, where the coach's confidence is at. And what else can we get into here with this defense, Justin? I think that we saw some good plays from Jamari Caldwell too. There was another play that was almost an interception where Caldwell slammed into Garbers and he just looks really, really good. So I think that getting 4 sacks is certainly a confidence boost for this squad. 2 turnovers is really big. I think that that's a really good reward for this defense that's been active all season, getting their hands on so many balls. They could still lead the nation in PBUs. I don't actually know if that's the case after yesterday. I'm trying to see what the box score was. They had 4 more yesterday. They had 2 from Jabbar Muhammad and 1 for Tyler Turner. So it's going in the right direction. But I think the last question that we can maybe kind of ask ourselves here, Justin, we don't want to look too far ahead, but I think it's on a lot of people's minds. What's your confidence level in this team as you look at the Ohio State game a couple weeks down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not totally sure Ohio State's all that good. Like, and I don't mean like, okay, that's a terrible team. I don't mean that. But I look at Texas and I look at Bama and I look at Georgia, and I see a different level of team than what we've currently I'm not going to homer out. We've seen a different level of team than we've seen from Oregon, and I would argue a different level of team than we've seen from Ohio State so far. So I think a lot of us, and we're not coaches, we're not in the box. They're looking at they're charting a completely different set of stats than we are as fans. Like, we look at 34-13. We look at how many interceptions or turnovers, basic numbers that are important, but they're looking at totally different things when they review tape. They're looking from an execution standpoint that's well beyond anything we know, because we don't know what the play call is or what they're trying to do. So, I think if you're talking to the staff, they're still pretty confident, with this team. We didn't talk about it, but special teams continues to be solid for Oregon, and that's okay. Like, it's the forgotten.
A miss PAT though.
I know
it doesn't make any sense after hitting 40 yarders. I just don't get it.
No, I know that's a focus thing. That's all that was. That's late in the game. It's a focus thing. That's 100% what that was. The other thing that we didn't really talk about, and it's okay. Yes, Oregon did travel to play Oregon State in Corvallis. This is a different travel than that, right? You can get up in the morning and hop on the bus and get to Corvallis in 45 minutes. That's a different trip than this, getting on a plane. You're there the night before, you're staying in a hotel, you're getting up, whatever the case might be. So this was Oregon's first true road game, in my opinion. That's the way I'm gonna count it. And to see the way they came out and just hit right from the gate, I feel really good about that. That's a really good positive. And I just don't think that, the kickoff out of bounds, Stephen, that is a good point. That's garbage that needs to be cleaned up for sure. But I mean, overall, special teams is not a liability, and it has been in years past. I mean, let's be honest. We've all sat there closing our eyes every time Oregon would trot out the field goal kicker, and we would all sit there and go like, this is like 70-30 not going in, and you don't feel that way with Sappington. So and that's good. The punts have been good. The kicks need to be cleaned up. They can't go out of bounds anymore. All those little things. Coverage has been good. They had some big returns a couple games ago, but not as much lately. But again, a road test. You got out of there relatively healthy, minus T for you got a good win. I think there's some really good stats there, some really good things, for them to go in as a staff. And Ohio State, I'm thankful that is in Eugene, because I think that's a little bit of a neutralizer in that game. They've got a serious problem with Jeremiah Smith out there. That dude is absolutely ridiculous at wide receiver as a freshman, and they can run the ball. So I think those are two teams that are matched up really well. I think if Oregon was playing, Alabama, I'd be much more concerned. That team looks a lot more potent and definitely looks elite on defense. I think Ohio State's winnable. Michigan is completely one-dimensional. So if you can shut down the run game, you're going to have a pretty good shot of success against them, because they clearly can't throw the ball. And, after that, I think, I don't know, maybe Illinois is Oregon's next toughest opponent. Washington's kind of not good. You beat Ohio State, you can go 12-0. How about that? Like, that's very much on the table for Oregon right now, because who they have remaining on their schedule is 100% beatable after Ohio State.
And I'll say this, Justin, when I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around the Ohio State game a couple weeks down the road, I do find myself to be more on the conservative side in terms of confidence level here, just because of what we've seen from Oregon, the consistency, the I don't want to say inability, but we haven't been really seeing very complete games from the Ducks. We would need to see a great game from the offense, both halves, a great game from the defense, both halves. The slip ups that you have and those hiccups, those murmurs, whatever you want to call it, you can't afford those against Ohio State because they're just going to capitalize and take everything. Those are momentum swings that are going to be hard to come back from. So Ohio State, they haven't played, great opponents either. You got Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, and then Michigan State on the road on Saturday, a 38-7 win for the Buckeyes. But I think you can see the potential there. You can see the pieces there for sure. I think that Oregon's depth in the secondary is really going to be tested against Ohio State, given their receivers like Jeremiah Smith, who you mentioned there, of course. I'm really surprised we still haven't seen Cam Alexander from someone who came in from the portal. You really expect those guys to play a decent amount. Jaleel Florence remains out with an injury. So I think that those are going to be some of the positions that I'm going to keep a closer eye on as this game gets closer each week. But the defense up front certainly looks like they should be able to be up to the task. It's really going to, for me, just be, can we see this offense find a groove, be consistent, be creative? I know a lot of people were upset about the play calling, but maybe that's because of these lower tier opponents that you're playing right now. So overall, I don't have a ton of confidence that they're going to necessarily win that game right now, but that's still 2 weeks out and things can change. You got another game to play.
The defense will keep them in the game. Like, there's no doubt in my mind the defense will keep Oregon in the game. Even, Ohio State's going to get theirs, right? You're not going to keep them out of the end zone. They're going to get theirs. But I think the defense can slow them down enough that you're not giving up back-breaking, big plays within 30 seconds, and all of a sudden you're down 21-3, right? That's what Oregon cannot afford against the Ohio States. If you can, worst case, and I'm just talking worst case, even if your defense can make it so, hey, look, we didn't play great offensively in the first half, but we're down 10-3. Like, you can go into the half and fix that, right? Or even if it's 14-3, you can still fix that. And I think the defense is elite enough to keep Oregon in any game. And I will say this, you can 100% lose to Ohio State and still 100% make the playoff easily if you're Oregon. And furthermore, regardless of that game, with the current format, the playoff format, style points don't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you beat UCLA by. It doesn't matter how much you beat Oregon State by. Did you win or did you lose? Okay, that's the stat that matters. And so, maybe I'm trying. I am concerned about the offense. I'm not sitting here saying I have zero concerns, it'll be fine. It does need to get better. But I also have confidence that I've seen, we've seen, if you're paying attention, we've seen in little pieces, we've seen the offense be pretty explosive. And I feel like we're nitpicking, but look at the offense in the first half of last night. They came out and just started popping, right? They were like, here we go. And they didn't miss a beat. Obviously, the way they ended the half was, it is what it is. But other than that, that first half was pretty much flawless on offense. So if that offense continues to show up, like in that first half or like we saw against Oregon State, the Ducks are going to be fine. And worst case, you can lose to Ohio State and you could still 100% make the playoffs. And my last point, Boise State's a damn good football team. I don't know when people are going to wake up and realize that's a quality freaking win and that Ashton Genty is an absolute man-child out there on the football field. He is terrorizing everybody. What do you have, like 250 last night and 4 touchdowns over Wazoo? And Wazoo's no joke. They beat Washington. Boise State's a good football team. That's a good win for Oregon.
Definitely. I think my final thought here, more confident in the defense than the offense. Is Oregon going to be able to do what they want with that being the case? If that's the reality the whole season, we don't know. That's why you got to play the game each week. And Oregon returns to Eugene next week to host the Michigan State Spartans on Friday. Another evening kickoff. I know Duck fans love that. I don't love that. But Friday game, 6 p.m. in Eugene. We'll be covering that one over at ScoopDuck.com. If you want to find more of that guy, Justin Hopkins, you can follow him on Twitter/X at JHopkinsSD. You can find more of me on any social media platform at mtorressports. And then come check us out at ScoopDuck.com for the very best in Oregon football and recruiting. Even though it's a Friday game, Ducks still have a chance to host some recruits, so we'll be tracking all the latest developments over there. And then share the show, share the Ducks Dish podcast with your friends, with your family, and with other Duck fans. But until next time, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Ducks Dish podcast.